My name is Shelly McIntosh. I'm the chapter executive for the St. Louis NTMA chapter. And I just want to thank you all for hopping on today. And a special thanks to our presenters today will be Keri and Greg. They've prepared a very active and informative presentation today. I think you'll enjoy it, and I'm confident you'll gather some little nuggets about simplifying your HR. In order to stay on track on time, let's save our questions for the end. But if you want to put them in the chat at any time, then as they come to you, put them in the chat, and then we'll refer to them afterwards during the Q&A. I think that'll help us stay on track. So our first presenter today is Keri Westland from Carr Manufacturing, based out of St. Louis and Austin, Texas. Keri has been, Carr has been an active member of NTMA for 5 years. Keri leads Carr HR team and administrative operations. With 20 plus years of HR experience, she brings practical, real-world expertise from both manufacturing and corporate sectors. So Keri's going to share with us on onboarding, documenting, compliance, tech and tools, and then looking at when it's time to outsource, and we'll hand it over to Greg. So Keri, if you'd like to take the floor, we're grateful to have you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me this afternoon. And everybody, I am not on camera because I am in an airport. So if at any point you can't hear me, you need to let me know. I've also asked Shelly to share my slides for me as well. And she'll also put a couple questions in the comments so that we can continue this terrific discussion. Be Before we go ahead and get started, simplifying HR and trying to do it in a short amount of time is really, really tough. So a little bit of an oxymoron, but we're going to do everything we can to give you some key takeaways that you can add or enhance, or even just some thoughts as well. Would love to see some discussion in the comments too. So we'll give that presentation just a minute and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Oh, you needed that?
Can you guys see my screen?
Yep, we see your homepage, Shelly.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me flip over to the other screen then. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't know that I've ever been on a meeting where everything has gone flawlessly technology-wise.
Okay, well, how do I get it to do the other one? Okay, I'm just going to move everything over to the other side. How will that work? Okay, now?
Absolutely. So if we can go back to slide 2, that would be terrific. So really quickly, just a quick introduction. My name is Keri Westland. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer at Carr Manufacturing. I've been at Carr for over 5 years, having a blast. Part of my responsibilities include HR, but it also includes our manufacturing operations in North America. So you'll see a picture of my family here in just a minute. And then you'll also see some information about Carr. So I've got a husband and 2 children, both in college. Yes, I feel old. Yes, the house feels empty, but cleaner, and my fridge is not always empty, and my grocery bill is smaller right now. A little bit about Carr. For those of you who don't know, we've been in St. Louis for 74 years. We are 3rd generation family owned and operated company. Our customer base is global. We manufacture precision tooling and work holding components. The industries that we service include aerospace, space, agriculture, automotive, marine, space, and more. We are not a product that you're going to find on a shelf in Home Depot, but we are in a lot of things that make other things go. Just a fun tidbit before we get into the meat of the presentation is Carr has been going to space since the United States has been going to space. So next slide, please. Okay, so as I mentioned, we had a lot of topics in a short amount of time, so I'm also going to hold myself accountable to how much I spend on each topic today. So when it comes to onboarding, we all know that how we onboard an employee can make or break their time with us. So when I think about onboarding, I like to think about onboarding and orientation as different functions. If you've ever worked in a large organization, they might have an orientation feature that's different than the onboarding process. In my mind, I see onboarding as a journey. It starts before you post the job. It starts when you identify the need as you start to determine how you're going to integrate that person into the organization. And then you also have to think, what are you going to do to prepare them pre-employment? What are you going to do on their first day, their first week, their first month, and even in their first 90 to 120 days? Preparedness is really key on this here. And let's be clear, we know that everything depends on the position. It's different at Carr Lane if we are onboarding a assembly production operator, a machinist, or somebody on our sales team. That process is going to look entirely different. And that's a great thing about onboarding is that it's customizable. When I'm thinking about onboarding, I'm thinking about something that's more than the pre-employment checks, more than the paperwork, more than the policies and procedures, all super important, and more than where the exit is in case of fire or where the shelter is in case of a tornado for everybody in St. Louis. So for me and my HR team, we're starting to think about what their interactions will be and what information we need to provide to them so that they feel like they know what to expect the first day and they feel like we're ready for them. So there's a quote here on the side. You'll see it says organizations with strong onboarding processes improve new hire retention by 82% and productivity by more than 70%. Shelly's added a question in the chat. I'd love for you all to share with me and with each other what some of the highlights of your onboarding processes are. Again, it depends not only on the role, but also the size of the organization. So I'm going to give you a few tips on the next slide, but before that, just some thought starters is, do you have an onboarding checklist to make sure that everything's done before that person starts? What will their first day, first 30 days, first 60 days, first 90 days look like? Are there any key people that they need to meet? Do we have our own version of internal lingo when we throw around acronyms and different things like that, that people might wonder about if they don't know what all those acronyms are? Do we have any questions that we routinely get from new employees when they come in? So if we're seeing a pattern in questions, maybe you think about an FAQ. And what information does the new hire need to know to be successful and or perform their job effectively? The reason why we start thinking about this when we're developing the role is because many times we'll get that question in the interview process. Hey, what does the training look like? What does the onboarding look like? What will I do on my first day? And having that sorted out or having a framework in place makes that super easy. So thank you. I saw a suggestion in the pop-up the answers that your president's involved. That is terrific. So go ahead and keep dropping any highlights of your onboarding process in the chat. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Shelley. So from my perspective, my basics of onboarding is we're going to make sure that we introduce them to their team and their leader. We have to explain the break times, where they're clocking in and out if they're an hourly employee, how their first paycheck works, when it's going to be, how it's going to be delivered. They need to have a tour, including the break room and the bathrooms. And are they somebody that needs computer access? Do they need a special code to clock their time? Do they need a log on if they're picking orders, packing orders, things like that? Or do they need special equipment or a uniform? It can be really tough when you're entering a new environment and you're asked to do something and you don't have all the information that you need. And then you might feel awkward about having to go ask someone. Or if you think about those people in our society who are under 25 that will avoid a human conversation as much as they can, this can be really tough for them. How are you having them complete their Form I-9? And who's doing it? For some of you that have satellite locations, need to have a plan for how that's going to happen and then tell them so that they bring their documents, coordinate all of those different things like that. And then, of course, we want to make sure that we're introducing them to our policies and procedures so they know what the expectations are. If there's anything you would add to the basics for onboarding, let me know. And again, that's the basics, the core. We can go into what else can happen here in just a second. Some other things that really can make a big difference, even though they might seem simple, is a welcome sign. Somebody who's joining us in an office position, if there's a welcome sign on their computer, there's basic office supplies there, which if you're me, some super cute colored Post-its can really make somebody feel like some effort was put into getting ready for their arrival. Again, depending on the position and an internal announcement, it could be something on your internal messaging system. It could be something on a Teams chat. It could be an email, whatever you need to do to communicate with people in your organization. And then really think about planned interactions and introductions depending on the role. If they're a machinist, you're going to want to make sure, of course, that they meet with their leadership team, but they also probably want to get to know the person, working next to them too. How long they've worked there, okay, where's quality? Where does my raw material come from? Who are the key people that person needs to meet? And then depending on the role, if they're in the office and they're going to work with accounting and sales, then you're probably going to want to schedule those one-on-one conversations as well. Really, it's an introduction. It's a meet and greet, and we can provide framework for those conversations. One of the things that I've seen it not only at Carr but at previous employers, an onboarding plan where a plan for week one is developed. It can be scheduled to specific times or it cannot be scheduled to specific times, whatever is going to be best. But it includes a list of those planned interactions and those planned meet and greets or the systems to become familiar with or the product families to learn or watch this YouTube video, read this internal article, all different kinds of things like that. And that can also include a to-do list. Maybe they need to learn how to do something in the ERP system. Maybe they're going to have lunch with their team. It's great to let them know what they can expect. If they're training one-on-one, who is their trainer? Who is their go-to person with questions? Another thing that we found effective at Carr is doing that new hire check-in. Now, depending on the position, depending on how the role is structured, that could happen at the end of week one. That could happen at the end of week two. And then HR sits down with a new hire and says, okay, how's it going? Is the first week what you expected? If so, terrific. If not, let's talk about it. Are there any other, additional resources that we can provide? Is there information that we can provide that would be helpful? It's really helpful as well. And the welcome packet sure can be a great tool, especially for those of you who are hiring machinists or assembly operators, and they're not necessarily on a computer or a laptop every day. Sometimes they like to have something to refer to. Desk supplies, again, seems basic, but can really make a difference with that first impression. We talked a little bit about lunch, and then whenever we bring a manager into Carr, we're looking to do some kind of manager meet and greet session, maybe breakfast, maybe coffee, maybe lunch, just to give them exposure to people in a more casual environment. If you've got any questions or anything to add to that, that's perfect. Please do, but let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is something that we've started doing at Carr where everybody gets a welcome packet. Keep in mind, we are not killing trees here. If they have a laptop issued, it goes to them electronically. It creates some general, or it provides some general information about Carr. And a lot of this was developed based on what the leadership team really felt like it was important for them to know and understand, but also based on questions that we get from our new hires. So there's a whole list of things that you can see on the right-hand side as well. A couple of things I want to point out to you. Meet the leadership team. That's got bios on all three of the officers and our pictures. So we encourage any new hire to stop us in the plant and introduce themselves and say hello. Same thing with the meet your team. So that's customized. So that puts faces and names with the leaders of the appropriate team. So the machinist is going to have a different reporting structure than a salesperson, than a customer service person, but especially when it becomes their manager plus one or their officer or their director, it can be a little bit tricky if you're meeting a lot of people on day one. So we found that that's effective too. in the manufacturing environment, we make stuff, right? We make stuff out of metal. We've gotten some terrific feedback on just providing some basic information on our products so they can tell their friends, their family members, whomever, what we actually do and kinds of products that we create. FAQ is in here. Company lingo is in here too. And spoiler alert, we had more than we thought we did. We also stick some HR contacts in there because that can be tricky. Like, okay, day 2, I wake up, I don't feel good. What do I do? They've got that information as well. And then again, if they have that specific onboarding plan or a detailed list of who to meet, that's included there too. So the next slide just gives you a couple screenshots of it. Rachel Zipfel on our team is on this call. So if you want her to send you a PDF copy, we could certainly do that too. All right. Well, okay. Kayla says PDF copy, please, Rachel. So we'll get that out as well. And again, this is specific to your company and your size and what your needs are. So okay, again, Shelley and I have talked, all of these topics could be, a lot more time could be spent on them. So that's something that you can look forward to, is a deeper dive in the future on many things in human resources. Because when she first contacted me, I said, 40 minutes, gosh, that is not enough time. So we're going to go deeper and probably do something next year, I think was the timeline. So look forward to more. And I can't wait to hear what ideas all of you are using that are effective. All right, so let's go into everybody's. Now we've got 2 really fun topics to talk about next, so we're going to get through those together. So let's go ahead to the next slide and talk about employee documentation. So Shelley's going to ask a question in the chat here, and that's really going to be helpful with how I talk about employee documentation. We know, or anybody in HR knows, that documentation is absolutely critical, but there's a fine line between too much documentation and an appropriate amount of documentation. And there's also a great way to tackle documentation as well. So Shelley just put the question in the chat. What comes to mind when you think of employee documentation? I'm going to give you a quick second to think about that and answer. Okay, if we can hop back to that documentation slide, that would be terrific. Kayla says onboarding docs, W4I9, demographic information. Yes, Kayla, thank you. All of those things are important. Okay, so when it comes to employee documentation, we have the onboarding documentation, we have the W4, the tax form, the I-9, the demographic information. All that is really key. If we can go back to that document, thank you so much. Other employee documentation, offer letter that falls under onboarding documentation, internal offer letters if they move internally. Job descriptions are great to have. If anybody on this call has ever had to find a job description for a long-time employee when they got hurt at work or need FMLA paperwork, that can sometimes be a treasure hunt. Time cards. Right. Depending on your HR technology, and we'll jump to that later. Time cards can be great for documentation as well. An attendance record, any status changes. Were they full-time? Were they part-time? Did they go on leave? Did they come back? Did they leave and then were rehired? All of that's really important to keep that up to date. Of course, documentation includes some of those things that maybe aren't our favorite days, like coachings and warnings. We'll pivot to those in just a second. And then handbook and policy signatures, performance reviews, also part of employee documentation, depending on how you do those. And then again, some more onboarding documents, like Kayla said, like results from pre-employment testing, drug tests, motor vehicle checks, different things like that, and training and certifications as well. So that is general, and that is a lot if you have any of that. Then separately from that, in a different file folder, that's where you're going to keep any medical information, any return to work, any fitness for duty, any workers' compensation information, any records from any American Disabilities Act, any doctor's notes, or any FMLA. It's really important that it be in a separate file. It could be in a separate electronic file. It just needs to be in a separate file. And then the I-9 file, which again, Kayla mentioned that too, it's the Form I-9 and the supporting documentation. If you use E-Verify, the E-Verify confirmation is great in there as well. Then there's another file that is all things payroll. So that's where your W-4 is going to go, your direct deposit information, which sometimes can live in your HR system, tax forms, which again, sometimes can live in your HR system, and then any wage garnishments that you might have received for those as well. So that's kind of what goes where. But let's just talk real quickly about that. And I know the Carlene team has some examples. But say you were at an unemployment hearing 2 weeks ago, might have been me, and it was a hearing and somebody said she wasn't sure why she was fired. In response to that unemployment claim, we provided the verbal warning, which was signed, the written warning, which was signed, and the final written warning, which was signed. And so at a certain point, the hearing judge asked her if that was her signature, and she said yes. The judge asked her if she remembered those warnings, and she said no. So then the judge said, "But you signed them." Yes. So the other way to think about documentation is not only building out a core HR file, but it can show a pattern of behavior or a performance trajectory or a behavior or certain actions that really necessitated other things. So, yep, Missouri is an at-will state. Yep, you can just go ahead and terminate somebody anytime. But oftentimes it's really terrific to have that information on hand. If they were showing up late, if they weren't coming to work, if they were yelling at their supervisor, if they didn't want to do the jobs assigned to them, if they were smoking 10 times a day and not on breaks, that's different than somebody who's meeting all the performance expectations. So again, employee documentation could easily be a couple of hours, but it's a Wednesday afternoon, and we have a limited amount of time, so we're going to go ahead and move on. So let's go to compliance, probably your other favorite topic. So what I would say about compliance is it is a moving target, and compliance impacts everything in HR. It impacts the whole life cycle of HR in different ways. It's nothing to be scared of, but it's absolutely something to be aware of. One of the things that we started, so Shelley asked you, what's your most pressing compliance concern if you have one? And if you don't have one, that is terrific. But if you do, I'd love for you to drop it in there so we can talk a little bit about that. There's a lot of information on this slide. I'm not going to read it to you verbatim. One of the things that we do at Carlene is we do a manager training every 18 months about different things our managers need to know. So that includes harassment, that includes retaliation, that includes FMLA, that includes workers' compensation, that includes VESA, that includes different kinds of leaves, how investigations run, different things like that. So just something to keep in mind. I don't see any pressing compliance concerns. So I think, Shelley, gosh, we've got some all-stars here who are on top of it. One of the things that can be super helpful is creating an annual compliance calendar. So on the calendar, you could go ahead and put the dates for the EEO1 report, the OSHA 300, ACA reporting, 401k reporting, or goodness bless it, if you have people in California, there's separate California pay data reporting that's due at a certain time. For those of you with multiple locations, I've listed some states below that need some extra attention. Sometimes they have different sick leave laws. Sometimes they have different vacation leave laws. Sometimes those come into play if somebody leaves or they accrue at a different rate. And depending on your HR system, you can set up those accruals as needed. Again, multiple state considerations. Do you have employees who live in Illinois but work in Missouri? Do you have employees who live in Wisconsin but work in Minnesota, and vice versa? Those can sometimes require some additional research and attention. I'm not an employment attorney. I don't want to be one, but we do have a terrific one when I can't figure something out. Eligibility to work in the United States now or in the future. So Form I-9, that's compliance. Last year in the first quarter, Carlene completed its first ever I-9 audit. Um, it was a little daunting to think about, easier to execute than we expected, and everybody came back fantastic. But that's something now that we've done it. We just have to update it every single year. And then again, many HR systems track payroll compliance by pay period, including ours. And so our HR system does offer push reminders for specific compliance requirements, and we also receive updated employment law posters yearly or as needed, which is super helpful. And Shelley's dropped in the chat that everybody receives 1 hour of free legal advice with this law firm. That is terrific. Keep that in mind. Take a screenshot of that comment. So if we can go ahead and go to the next slide. These are a few of the resources you might look at to stay up to date on compliance. We know Missouri's doing a lot of different things. We know Illinois is doing a lot of different things. So how do we stay up on compliance at Carlane? Our compliance tools include double AIM in St. Louis and other local organizations. Our employment attorney will let us know, of course. LinkedIn contributors and communities can be very helpful. State and federal websites, it's going to be a lot of words, but AI can help you understand what it means. And then law firm newsletters are helpful as well when they share the key information that you need to know. And then for many of you, SHRM can be a great resource. Now, SHRM has had their own set of challenges lately. So that's why we put an asterisk there. So it's a resource, but it's certainly not one that has to be used, as there are plenty of other ones. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so we are pivoting to HR technology and AI tools, and Shelley, I think we're doing absolutely great on time. So, what HR technology are you using? I'd love to know. Anybody using a piece of HR technology, or are you Paycor? Fantastic. Claude? Great. We do onboarding through our ERP. Perfect. Kayla, thank you. Melody, we use Paycor at Carlane, so I'm sure a lot of what we're going to talk about is familiar to you. Paycor, Andy, great. Paychecks, Flex, perfect. Okay. And Paycor in a past position. Awesome. So I have used a couple of them. I have used Workday twice. I have used a system which was old and jankety called Active Recruiter. I've also used a system called AltiPro, and at Carlane we use Paycor. So a couple things to think about, and this could be its own hour in and of itself. I'm sure Shelley would have affiliates ready, knocking down her door, ready to do this part of the presentation. Is if you're evaluating an HR technology system, what tools or solutions do you really need? And does your ERP, like Kayla's, offer some of those capabilities? So one of the things that we regularly do is assess the capabilities of our system. So my question to you is, what can your HRIS or your HCM or payroll to do that you're not already using? Can you enhance tools or processes? Can you eliminate scanning in documents or storing files? One of the huge projects that Carlene has done in the last 5 years is made all of the records electronic, right? A lot of people started working on that during COVID. It seems like a little thing, but it's terrific to have everything electronic and no longer have files and file cabinets and file folders. Is AI already implemented in your HR tool? And if so, how? And how can you use that to save yourself time? And then what plugins does your HRIS system offer? And is there a benefits option? So at Carlane, we use Paycor with a few add-ons, which we'll get into in just a minute, but we use Employee Navigator for our employee benefits tool as well. We'll talk about AI in just a minute. What I would say is it's not the solution for everything, but it's great for a lot of different things. And Melody, that's great with Employee Navigator. I'm sure we have a couple people on our team who would be happy to talk with you if you have any questions. So for AI, for me, it really comes down to what tool, what organization guardrails do you have? Can it save time or make something easier for your team? That's what I challenge my team with all the time. And one of the things that we've noticed as a trend is we are seeing some AI generated emails from employees, which is interesting, and even some AI applications. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And I'm going to spend just 30 seconds on this slide. This shows you what parts of Paycor Carr Lane is currently using. So you'll see a mix. So you'll see what they call their HCM core, which is on the left side. We do schedules, time cards, PTOs, accruals, and tracking. So when we're looking at somebody's attendance or accruing their PTO, that happens automatically for us. We use the recruiting and sourcing and talent management pieces as well, including performance reviews, goal setting, learning management system. We just added the compensation benchmarking feature earlier this year. We use expense management across the organization. That has been terrific. And then we do have a couple of their AI tools integrated, including the employee questions and some of the automatic reports. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Oh, that one is hidden, so let's go one more, please. Okay. Fantastic. So let's talk about AI. I would love to know in the comments how many of you are using AI on a daily basis for HR type of matters. I know the answer from the Carlene participants. Anybody else? Kayla's starting to use it for handbook updates. Thank you, Kayla. Yep, it can be really helpful making complete sentences. Anybody else using AI? Okay, fantastic. So we're going to give you a few examples of how we're using it at Carlane, and then just for fun, I'm going to amuse you for a minute. We are doing what a lot of people are doing, which you have probably heard, helping generate interview questions and phone interview questions. It's really quite nifty when we put in the job description and ask it to generate phone interview questions. We do that for a number of positions. Melody, I see you're using it for templates, standard operating procedures, 100% agree. I am not creative, so for me to put together a template and have all the lines be straight and even would take me a while. AI's been a huge help there and made that easier for my team. We've also used AI effectively by uploading the job description, the phone interview questions, and then asking it to generate interview questions. We have a position we're looking for now and looked at the interview questions and said, nope, I need to add additional behavioral questions on teamwork and collaboration. Boom, they're in there automatically. We also use it to glorify some PowerPoint presentations, right? That's great. And then research. If you're looking for a specific law or you need the website or the language, that's it too. Some of the other things that we've used it for that are more fun are flyers and presentations, general employee messages, and you'll see some of those. You'll see some of those here in just a second as well. And then organizational charts. It's been hugely helpful. So at Carlene, as an organization, we have Copilot, but several of us have Claude. So I'm constantly joking that I use my AI best friend Claude to help me with that. And then we have some people that have helped us, or some people that use Perplexity from time to time as well. Within the HR team at Carlane, we do have guardrails, and those guardrails are no employee personal information, no employee compensation, and no employee documentation is fed into AI. Now, if I'm trying to figure out how to say something, I might ask AI, give me a sentence about XYZ, stop smoking in the wrong place, but I won't give them a person or a location, any identifying information. So some additional considerations for all of you, especially those of you doing templates in a handbook, is depending on your AI tool, you can potentially load in your company colors and preferred branding. Really comes in key. Ask yourself if AI can amplify or enhance the work of you and your team. Can it do tasks that are time consuming? Will it add value? And then how you phrase your requests is key. If you're not sure how to phrase it, type in there and say, I need you to do this, this, and this. What instruction do I give you? And it will do that. All right, let's move on. We are on to our last topic. Oh, before we do that, here's a couple quick ways that we've used AI that I felt comfortable sharing with all of you today. So really quickly in the top left, we did Valentine's with a couple of our different products. We did a limerick, I think, for St. Patrick's Day, and then the bathroom ballad when the HR team had the uncomfortable task of reminding people not to stay in the bathroom all day. Just when you wondered if HR was really exciting and dynamic, we show you these. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so outsourcing HR, is it right for your organization? I've got a lot of questions for you to consider on this page and the next page. What I would tell you is, in short, it depends on your organization, the size of your organization, your employees, and your area of specialty. My best friend from college runs a small terrazzo tile company up in Minnesota, and they outsource about 40% of their HR. That's the other consideration too. Do you need to outsource everything or do you just want to outsource a portion? This is a bigger discussion. I alternated the questions in bold and not bold just so that they would be easier for you to see. But as a couple of thought starters, what are your HR needs? What HR tasks and topics come up? What types of questions or requests do you get? And what do people in your organization know versus what are some knowledge gaps that someone else could help with? Do you work 24/7? Do you work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5? Think about the hours, the shifts, and the overtime as far as when HR needs to be available. And then what will you outsource? Like I said, are you going to do full life cycle or specific functions? How will this impact the experience of your employees? So, for example, if your employees prefer to have a face-to-face conversation or stop you when you're out on your floor, that's something that I would consider in this conversation. Just skipping down here a little bit, thinking about who your existing partners are, and is HR a partner in your organization or a resource that can help guide this discussion? And then is your organization bilingual or trilingual? Always good to know. Let's go ahead and go to the next and last slide, and I will make it under my deadline here. So, outsourcing HR, is it right for your organization? Here are some questions that if it was me, I would ask potential partners. First of all, what's the cost, right? We know that we always have to be worried about the, the bottom line. Do you pay per the employee? Is the pricing flexible? Is it per instance? Are there different prices for different things? How is the assistance provided? Is it in person, chat, phone, or video? Is there an on-site component? Talk about the team. What are their backgrounds and experiences? How are they being matched up to you and your organization? How would they handle and investigate an injury? Are they coming on site? Are they talking to everybody? Are they looking at video? Or are they doing it remotely? It has to be what's going to work for your organization. Not only an injury, but what about an investigation? We know that investigations can be very tricky and pretty sensitive. What services can they offer? What don't they offer that you'll be responsible for? And then what is their response time? If an employee reaches out to them, if you reach out to them, how quickly can you expect a response? Will your team have one person to talk to, multiple people to talk to, or do they call a number and see who answers the phone? And then who determines how a policy is interpreted? I know I would want to know that. And can you add or change services as needed? Say you have somebody go out on maternity leave, say you have somebody come back, say somebody leaves and you've got a gap in your coverage. Do you have flexibility there? And how do they stay up to date on compliance and keep you up to date on compliance? If you have multiple languages, can they support that? And then how do they handle an employee concern? Just my 2 cents of questions I would ask. So that is all I have for today. Would love to answer any questions that have come up, and then we can all look forward to a longer HR session in the future. Any questions for me? Oh, thank you, Melody. Thank you, Kayla.
Okay. I'm really struggling with the sharing today. Sorry, I kept
It's okay.
changing the slides. I was trying to get it into slide view, but
Yep,
so when I
that's
click on share, it wants me to share like I'm not already sharing.
Nope, that's okay. So for everybody, certainly appreciate you guys attending today. You're certainly more than welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. Our website is carlane.com. Certainly take a look at our products. Certainly take a look at our configurator where you can configure almost any project that your heart desires. And certainly look forward to meeting you all at a future STL and TMA event.
Thank you. Thank you, Keri. That was great. That's like drinking from a fire hose. So we will definitely need to expand on that at another time. And I will also, when I send out information about this webinar and when I send out the recording, I'll send out contact information for Keri and for Greg. So everyone will have that. So the last part of our webinar here is going to be presented by Greg. Greg Heins is here with Auris Payroll and HR Solutions. They're headquartered in Oklahoma City, but Greg is based in St. Louis, right, Greg? Is that true? Okay. Auris is a national associate member of NTMA. Greg specializes in HR, payroll, and workforce solutions. He helps manufacturers identify opportunities to streamline HR and determine when outsourcing HR support is the right fit. So if you will, welcome Greg, and he'll share what they have to offer there at Auris.
All right. Thank you, Shelley. Keri, definitely want to give you another thumbs up. You did a phenomenal job. I'm going to have to work on my presenting to get to your level. So definitely took some notes on that. Good afternoon. As Shelley was saying, I am with Auris Payroll Solutions. Pretty much everything that Keri was just talking about, we can do. Based here in St. Louis myself, been with the company for about 2 years now. And as Keri was saying, I have 2 stepchildren. One is just started college. The other one is a sophomore in high school. So chasing them around to sporting events and dance and stuff like that kind of books my schedule up quite a bit. But enjoy it. Wouldn't trade it for the world. So do apologize if I've got a bad signal. I double booked myself today, and I'm currently a whole sponsor at a golf tournament here in town for some clients and things like that for a fundraiser. So we'll keep it short and sweet. Just want to get in, introduce everybody. At Auris Payroll Solutions, we can do, as I like to say, our tagline is we can help from recruiting to retirement. That can be working with anything of that nature. Biggest thing we like to do, if you're looking for employees, the HR that Keri was referring to, we can help with all that. One of our biggest things is points of contact. I know if you're looking to outsource HR, one of the biggest things with that is trust, as Keri was saying in her presentation. Do we have the services? We can help with all of that. We can help with some of that. Biggest things I like to work with my clients that a lot of people kind of put back burner when it comes to the HR solution is the employee manual. Those tend to get very burdensome, very in-depth. We audit those every 12 months. So if we work with you on your employee handbook, we can audit it with labor laws, accruals, anything of that nature, succession protocol. I know a big thing is OSHA and all the different certifications and safety mandates that are out there with the industry. We can help make sure that those are upkept and in a continuing education situation. I know one of the big things, obviously, onboarding. You have to have so much stuff done, getting to know your coworkers. We can help with that once the hiring process has started, and we can do that in an online scenario where the people can either do it by themselves or they can, do a finished test or a summary or look at something online. And that also reports back to your HR person, to yourselves. So that way you can see the progress of what they're doing. And if someone's falling behind on it, you can make sure they get that going in that pre-employment point all the way up to the 30, 60, 90, 120 days, whatever limits you put on it and what they need to do to get to that next scenario. That way they're not coming in and necessarily doing things on a schedule where if they need to be out on the line or taking time out of that workday for production to sit in a classroom, they can do it online. They can do it in an afternoon. They can do it on their own at home if they want. That's one of the things that we really work with on the onboarding. We try to do it completely paperless. So that way it just expedites and makes things more efficient. saves trees. So we're not just sitting there on file folders and file cabinets full of paperwork that you have to keep for any audits or background checks or anything like that, and certifications. One of the big things we do also with that, I know another point that Keri touched on that we see a lot that people are trying to keep up with are the labor laws and labor changes as far as PTO and payroll or taxes. I know here in St. Louis, a lot of you know, if someone lives and or works in the city, they have to pay a city earnings tax. If they don't, it's, hey, I live out here, our company's here, but the office is in the city and you have to pay that. Those are some of the things that we help with and we can do remotely and we keep on top of. So if those changes go through, we focus on those and help you with those. Again, we have 401k ways that we can do that. We pay out the taxes. I know one of my companies here, it's about a 60 employee company and they pay weekly. And their HR person was spending about 6 to 8 hours a week just processing payroll with the time cards and PTO accruals and things like that. She now with our system is down to about 30 minutes a week to process payroll with our online systems that we give. And as far as time cards, it's all online. They have an iPad in the shop where the employees come in, they key in on the iPad and they clock in and clock out. And then she just sees a summary at the end of the week on the day that she processes payroll. She sees a summary and just has to look for the anomalies or why does this person have 8 hours of overtime? Because they weren't clocking out for their lunch. And so she just goes in and does that. And like I said, it takes her about 20 to 30 minutes now to process for about 60 employees that are salary and hourly, both on-site and off-site. Another thing with us is WOTC credits with taxes. A lot of people don't know about WOTC and or understand WOTC. With our company, we are responsible for about 60% of all WOTC tax credits that are filed for and received. Our company has taken 60% of those to our clients and made sure that those were in there. Kind of what we do in a nutshell. Then another part, looking at the outsourcing of HR. We can help with one project. We can do a full outsourced HR. I know Keri referred to a friend of hers that has the tile company, and trying to bring on a person that's in full-time HR with benefits and everything we see is on average about $100,000 a year in expense to the company between benefits and salary and everything of that nature and training. We can do that offsite and then help build. And once you get to that point, transition over. So that's one of the nice things with us. And I did like the questions that she had in there is, what do you need from your outsourcing person? Those are the ones that we see all the time. Those are the questions we have, and we can help with, again, all of that or just a part of that. One of our big things with our company is we do price for what you need. We're kind of an a la carte situation. So if you only need parts, we'll sell you parts. If you want the full tilt, we'll give you the full tilt. But other than that, we do work with Employee Navigator. We integrate with them 100%. So if you're using them currently, coming with our company, we can jump in and we can do that all and transition that pretty easily. Right now, our transition time for clients is roughly about 5 to 7 business days, and we can have you up and running with payroll quicker if necessary. But usually I like to tell people about 2 weeks, we can have you up and running and trained and ready to go for the basics, and then work things through a calendar year or 6 months or what it needs to get everything up and running and going. We do with our recruiting side, we go through a lot of the LinkedIn, the Indeeds, all the different job search websites. We can do all that for you. We have a team that'll put that together, put your job posting up, and then with that, do the questionnaires and filter folks out that don't meet the requirements or don't have the I-9 to work here, or don't have the experience. If you need certain experience needed, especially in the machining industry, if you want someone that's already got certifications or has been in the industry for so many years or knows that they've worked on aerospace parts as far as machining, because it can be very, very finite variances. And so you need to have that quality. So with that, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that's out there. A lot of you I saw were working with Paycor, just the same as them. The only thing we do different is just pricing, and we've got a contract lock. We do a 36-month contract. One great thing about our company is if you do with our partners, there's 2 points of contact. One is myself here on site in person, I am one of those people where I'd rather have fewer clients that I can keep on top of and help them if there's an issue and be there and be present. And then you also have a specialist that's going to be dedicated directly to your account. And as Shelly was saying earlier, it's based in Oklahoma City. They're there 24/7. Usually, if your specialist will be there a certain time of day, they'll let you know. Business hours traditionally for Central Time. So that's another great thing about us is having those 2 points of contact. We do have a full 24-hour a day helpline if it's a simple question. But if you need something that's pretty in depth and it's directed simply with your business and with your company in a situation, then we have that specialist and or myself that can help you with that, and we'll come directly and know exactly what's going on and kind of have an idea to help you with that issue. So, but that's pretty much us in a nutshell. I know a lot of you have worked with payroll services, payroll solutions. As Shelly said, we've been working with NTMA for a year now as a partner, and would love to speak with anyone that has any questions or anything like that. I know Shelly opened up the back end here for questions or anything, and she's going to send the contact info. Feel free to reach out. I'm readily available at any time. Can meet up, come to the office, or meet neutral or on a Zoom, whichever is best. But that's pretty much Auris in a nutshell.
Thank you. That's great. It's nice to know there are options on both sides depending on what your company needs. Does anybody have any questions? I'd like to just open this time up to just general questions at all. You can put them in the chat, or you can just unmute and share them with all of us. Any questions on how someone else is handling something or what they're using? Kayla's asking, how do you get your labor law postings? Would anybody like to share on that? I think Keri had a slide about.
Sure. Yep, I can talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, so real quickly, we get them automatically from Paycor, but we also do use those various different sites to get the updates that we need. But that is a service that we're signed up for through Paycor so that they magically arrive when we need to change them.
And just to back up on that, Keri, for us, we send every year we send new labor posters to everybody, and with the labor law updates and all that stuff. That's one of the things that we offer. Again, like you said with Paycor, we send those out, and if there's anything needed or new, those updates come out on a regular basis through our system.
Awesome.
Keri has offered to let me send the PowerPoint as well. So when I send a link out to everyone, I'll send the PowerPoint. And so those places that she touched on in her slideshow, those will be shared with you. We have someone else asking for an employee packet from Carr Lane.
Yep, Shelly, if we send that to you, is that something that you could distribute?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, what I would say is keep in mind it's just a sample because each individual packet is crafted for that person and the team that they're going to. So certainly welcome, and that if you have questions, you're more than welcome to send them to us and we'll do our best to answer.
If we don't have any more questions, we can end early. Yeah, I don't see any more questions coming in. So I appreciate you guys spending some time with us this afternoon, and for our presenters and the time that they put into getting those presentations ready. We have an event coming up in October that's clay shoot competition. It's a workforce development fundraiser. So if anybody's interested in any information on that, you can contact me. Otherwise, I think that's about all we have for this today. So we thank you all for coming, and thanks again to our presenters, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you all very much for your time. Have a great day.